Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Comics Discourse 114. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Newberry.
And I'm Hassan.
Tonight we are Brianless, and Hassan and I decided to talk about one of our favorite creators and one of the sexiest men in comics, Phil Jimenez. Hassan is
Yes.
speechless on the sexy comment.
No, he's very sexy. He's
Ah,
very sexy and very well built. He's really no, and he's very he's one of those creators that I recognized immediately when he first came on the scene at DC Comics, and I think his first issue was Team Titans, published by DC Comics. And I think Brian and I talked about Team Titans before, and that was not a great Titans book for the most part, but it actually had quite a great artist on it with Kevin McGrath story in it. And then I actually thought it got better towards the end. And then since then, he's been on a lot of great books. And I think he's one of those artists that when you first started looking at his work, he obviously was heavily influenced by George Perez, and obviously he's a huge Titans Donna Troy fan, and probably the best writer of Donna Troy ever. But just like every artist that was influenced by a legendary artist, him himself evolved into his own style over time and became a master artist himself.
yeah, his art is beautiful, to say the least, and he is very, very heavily influenced by Perez. So you know what his first work at DC was?
I thought it was Team Titans 20 was
Nope,
a showcase.
nope. 4 pages in War of the Gods.
Really? Okay,
Yep,
okay. I did not know that.
yep. Um, but he's been working at DC since 1991. Um, most of his work seems very, very DC heavy, but there is some Marvel in there as well.
Oh, really good Marvel too, right? I mean, there's this Grant Morrison X-Men run maybe that he did.
Yep. He had that series had rotating artists. He was one of them, one of the big. And they brought heavy artists in for that entire run to
Well,
support Morrison.
this to be fair, at the beginning, Frank Riley was supposed to be the main artist, and he couldn't
Yeah. He
maintain a
can't
monthly
keep up with that.
schedule. And
No.
then the artists they got after Frank Riley, immediately after Frank Riley, were probably not the strongest. But then I think Phil Jimenez stories were probably the better told stories from a storytelling standpoint on Morrison's run.
I think it's funny you dove right into New X-Men though, because I figured you'd jump in to his time on Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, I was going to go there too next. That was later after New. He did a brief run on Amazing Spider-Man, part of the Brand New Day, right? Era. I mean, I think he actually did the Day Zero issue, and then he ended up doing a story arc. I want to say written by Dan Slott himself. I want to say, but
Yes.
but yeah, no, I did like his short run on Spider-Man. I actually risked he did more Spider-Man, and I know he's doing the covers of the new Dan Slott Spider-Man series that's coming out called Brand New Day for the movie. But I risked he was on Spider-Man a little longer because his stuff on Amazing was amazing. No pun intended.
Well, we've talked about Phil off and on throughout our podcast because I was thinking of the stuff that we've done that he's done that we've covered. So, and it is funny that most of them have been Brian-less shows because it's you and
Mhm.
I have picked them. So we did Titans JLA,
Yep.
did that, and then Titans Legion Universe Ablaze,
Yep.
which I love both of those series, and I think that was the first time you had read, if not both of them, at least one of them.
It's
Um,
both, but yes.
which is a very sort of kind of George Perez thing to do because they were three very big teams, and Phil got to draw all the members of all those teams, and that
Mhm.
was a big part of the conceit of all the books as well. Um, Also, you know, we've talked about these books called Planetary and the Authority a time or two. He did do the Planetary Authority crossover, remember?
I do remember that. That was excellent as well. Yes. Um,
Um,
and then he
and
read. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of my all-time favorite books, especially from the last decade, he did the lead-in for Wonder Woman Historia, that first issue, which is so fucking gorgeous.
Which we did talk about as well. I
We
think we talked
did.
about every
Talked about the
issue.
whole series. Yes.
Yes.
And
And I agree with you. That issue alone, in my mind, is probably one of the best single issues of the past 10, 15 years.
yeah.
In terms of writing and then the craft and the art and everything, I still guss about it. I'm looking forward to the absolute version of it, um, which is also a larger size than the even
Yes.
the hardcover that they put out. So yes, looking forward to that. Um,
Yeah. I
and
kind
you
of
know, we,
wish I love all the art from the whole book.
uh
And I
huh.
think the artists were very well picked for their chapters, but I do wish he'd done it all.
I did. I do as well, but I also recognize then he's not he takes his time on books, so I recognize it. But yeah, I think if I had a dream, it would have been him doing the whole series as well. Um, we the other thing that I also like he did he's also loved like he's definitely a big fan of Titans because he's done a lot of Titans work. He also did Legion work that you mentioned. Remember that Adventure Comics run he did? I think he did maybe 3 issues, 4 issues. That was when Legion of Superheroes was in Adventure Comics right before the New 52.
Yep.
I think he was focusing on Legion Academy. Those are awesome issues. Actually, was looking through my long box and that I just saw that recently. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's fantastic. Um, he also, I think, did one of my favorite DC crossover events, which is Infinite Crisis miniseries, which was the big event that DC did in 2005, 2006. I mean, there were other artists that did work in the series, including George Perez and Jerry Ordway. But I really think his art on the book really made the event fantastic. Um, I think he has a good hand on the DC characters, right? So when he draws any DC character, I have no problem with that. Um, and he really conveyed the scope of that event very well. Again, we mentioned he's hugely influenced by George Perez, so he loves drawing a lot of characters on one panel, just like Perez did.
And the hair is very, very, very detailed.
Oh, but not, yeah, the hair and the clothes, right? So, okay,
Yes.
we're going to talk about one book that he did, his created own book that he did. But the thing I like about his drawings is that when you look at a panel, you can just focus on, generally in superhero stuff, you just focus on, if you don't read it properly, you just focus on the action of the character. But if you read it properly, you have to focus on the whole panel. And he's so detailed in the clothes, the design, the decor, the room that you feel like, oh wait, this is grounded in real life. That's what similar to George Perez. What I loved about George Perez is that when he drew clothes and rooms, they look like real rooms. Versus, I hate to say this, sometimes even as a kid when I read comic books and I see characters in regular clothes, I'm like, what the hell they're wearing? No one wears that. What color is that? Why does this room look so weird? And he doesn't do that. He goes into the hair, the clothes, the earrings, like everything, and then the different body types, right? So when he draws regular people, they have different body types. They don't all look muscular, like a fitness person. Some of them overweight, some of them a little chubby, some of them short, some of them, they all have different facial features and they look unique. So I really do appreciate his art that way.
We talked a lot about his art, but he has written some stuff as well.
Oh yeah,
And one of my favorite runs of Wonder Woman was his. Yeah, he's got a whole omnibus of Wonder Woman that he wrote and drew.
Yes.
Um, have you read it? Did you read the run?
No, I didn't read
Oh
the
my
run
God.
during when it was coming out. That was during my time where I took a pause on a lot of DC stuff. I do have the omnibus. I am planning to read it, but I have not read it yet.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that. Not to spoil you on a 20 something year old comic, well, 26 years old, because it was his run was from 2000 to 2003. Um, but it took place between John Byrne's run and Greg Rucka. Now there were some creators in between, but they were real short runs. Like I think Walt Simonson had a brief run
Mm-hmm.
between uh, Jimenez and Rucka coming on, and then there was after Byrne left, the book seemed a little aimless for a little while. It wasn't like a huge gap in between, but um, Byrne left, and that Byrne is the one that set up Hippolyta as the JSA Wonder Woman. I don't know if you remember that period where
Yes.
Wonder Woman's mother went back in time and became the Wonder Woman of World War II and a member of the Justice Society. And she did that as penance for what she had done to Diana and Artemis. She set it up where she knew she got a prophecy that Wonder Woman was going to die. So she held the contest that replaced Diana as Wonder Woman with Artemis, but she kind of cheated to make sure Diana lost. And Artemis ultimately died because of it. Um, and she carried some guilt for that. And Diana was ultimately elevated to the goddess of truth for a little while, and Hippolyta, as penance, became Wonder Woman. Um, his run starts with her. We have the giant Wonder Woman family. We've got Cassie, we've got Artemis, we've got Hippolyta at this point in time. Um, but Hassan, the first arc starts with Diana going to Gotham, and Batman ain't happy. Um, you know how George Perez's run starts with Ares, or Diana coming to man's world to fight Ares. It
Yes.
it seems like that's going to be sort of the setup, and it's a little bit of an homage to that. But the first four issues are Diana going to Gotham because some of Batman's rogue gallery appears to be possessed by the Greek gods, and Maxie Zeus is involved, but Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, and the Joker have been possessed by Ares' children, who are turning the city and trying to bring Ares back. And Diana doesn't know all that when she gets there, but she kind of knows there's some shenanigans going on with the gods. And his run really brings back the Greek gods a lot more in focus in the mythology, but also focuses on her being an ambassador, because at this point, Paradise Island can appear anywhere. And there's a scene where it appears in Gotham Harbor and she gets off to go into Gotham, her and Artemis, and then it just disappears real quick. So she uses the island to get all around. But Jimenez plays with a lot of the history of the character because he loves her so much. We mentioned Donna Troy. He loves that character. Um, but the whole run is really just a throwback to a lot of the elements of Diana's past, but moving her forward as well. And it's a wonderful run. It's not that long. It's like 30 something issues, if I remember right. You get the whole
Yeah.
thing in one omnibus, but it's really good. And the art is, of course, amazing.
No, I definitely gonna read it. I mean, actually, I have the Burn omnibus too, and the Rucka one. I did read Rucka. That's when I got back into reading DC comics. I never read the Burn either, but I definitely would probably read Phil Jimenez run before I go to the Burn one.
Well, that's funny because you're doing it in the opposite order of when it was published.
Well, I know, but Phil Jimenez, his writing and art speaks to me more than I think later John Byrne stuff. Not saying I don't like John Byrne
Yeah.
stuff. I do like his stuff a lot, but I think that because it's Phil Jimenez, I really want to read his interpretation of Wonder Woman. I also like, the way he instills his views and views of others. And we're going to talk about this book where he had different, like he does really a great job with not just telling the story of the characters, but instilling that different viewpoints very well in his stories. I mean,
Well, and
and,
I don't feel like he's shoving it down people's throat, but Phil is a lot of his work has the message of being inclusive and open to other people. And I mean, he's a gay man. I can, of course, relate. And that theme is on a lot of his books, and some of them are more personal than others. But especially in Wonder Woman, that idea of inclusiveness and welcoming really fits.
no, I agree. I agree with that completely. And I think his writing's pretty good actually. I wish he writes more. You and I talked about that Titans annual that he did on Donna Troy, and after I finished reading it, I was like, dang, he should be the writer of Titans. It
Yes,
was
I
just
wish he was.
I've just been just not. I get don't. He's too busy to draw it monthly. He could do covers, but I just wish he could write. He just do more writing on his own because I think he's a very capable writer. Um,
Yeah, I absolutely loved that annual. I could relate to it, so that helped, but it was very emotional and took a character that a lot of people either don't understand or just don't use very well, and Donna Troy, and added to her very convoluted story. Um, it was one of
yeah.
my favorite books last year, as we talked about.
So let me mention another book that I mentioned before on the show when we were talking about Vertigo, but so yeah, I knew Phil Jimenez. I like his art, but I think this is the book where I thought he went to the next level. That went from being influenced by Perez to being his own artist, an incredible artist. Was Invisible Volume 2 and written by Grant Morrison. Again, they collaborated together with New X-Men, as we previously mentioned. And so the first volume of Invisibles, honest, it's hard to get into. And DC decided to, I think there was some delays. Phil Jimenez actually finished the volume 1 with the last 3 issues. But they decided to relaunch it, volume 2, and that's where Invisibles became the big hit, was with volume 2. And I remember seeing on the stand with the Brian Bullard covers and Phil Jimenez interiors and Grant Morrison writing it. I was like, what is this? And I know it sounds funny. It was actually very accessible because Grant Morrison book being accessible. I know people laugh, but he changed it where it became, at least the beginning of the volume 2 became very easy to jump in. I jumped in without even reading volume 1, but so again, great story. But then the art was just incredible. It pulled me in. And remember, The Invisibles is not about superheroes. Now it is about supernatural, weird conspiracies and whatnot. But it's not superheroes. But he's able to draw all these regular characters with very realistic backgrounds, and it was just I was just wowed by it, and that's what made me think that he was like an awesome artist. And I think actually that run was what led him DC using him to do Infinite Crisis, and eventually this other book. After he did Infinite Crisis, we're going to talk about his creator-owned book that he did at Vertigo afterwards. Those are the stepping stones. But I really love Invisibles because of Phil Jimenez, art at the beginning. There's volume 2. Obviously, the story is really good too, but I think his art, and I'm visual. When it comes to comic books, there have been times where the writing's good, but the art is so bad that I'm it's hard for me to get into it. Like Aztec, not to get on a tangent. Remember Aztec, that Grant Morrison?
Yeah, I
That
never read the
art.
book, but I know the character.
Well, I read it. I didn't. I remember seeing it on the stands, and I didn't pick it up because the art was. I'm not gonna say bad, but it wasn't. It wasn't good. right? It was just like average, and
Didn't they
so
run on the last like 10 issues or something
it's
like
10
that too?
issues, 10
Yeah.
issues. I have the trade though. I have the trade because I have
Huh.
almost every Grant Morrison collection.
Um, I know I don't think you ever read it, but there was also another Vertigo. Well, there's several Vertigo books he wrote, but or not wrote, did art on. Um, one he contributed quite a bit to, actually
The
more than the Invisibles.
Would that be the Ferris?
It would be from Fables. Um,
Yes.
so Fables had several spin-off books, Jack of Fables, The Literals. There was a spin-off book near the end called Fairest that focused on a lot of the other side characters. And Phil did, I think about 10 or 12 issues of the run. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't a long book anyway, but again, his art was beautiful. Very fit very well with the title, since
I
the title is about all the other princesses besides Snow White and stuff, and of course Fairest. So the art has to be beautiful for that.
I read the first story arc. Thank you.
Oh, you did? I'm
I
shocked.
did. I did. That's back when I was reading Fable. So I read all the spin-offs back then. So I read the first story arc that he drew that. I remember that. Yes.
Well, before we get into the book we're going to talk about for a little bit, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
What property would you that he has not worked on would you like to see him do?
Hmm. Oh, that did put me on the spot.
Because that takes out Legion, that takes out Titans
Kind of takes out Justice League, right? Because he
a
did
little
that one
bit.
event.
I would give grace on that
What
one.
about Superman? Because he did that Superwoman series. Do you count
I
that?
mean, he has done a few random Superman
Super.
stuff, but
He did some covers too. If I had to pick, I think I'm going to stick with DC because that's who I am. Batman. Let's have him do Batman.
he's drawn a lot of Batman because Batman appears and stuff. But all
He,
right,
but he never done a regular Batman. I think he
yeah,
done some covers, but he never did any regular Batman. If that, my next choice would be, I think he'd be perfect with the Flash.
I can see that.
Yeah. What about you? Since you brought up the question.
I am going to go in opposite direction, and it is because he's followed in George Perez's footsteps quite a bit. Um, I would love to see him draw an Avengers run.
Interesting. Yeah, that'd be good. That would be good.
Um, Something a little different than we've seen from him because we don't get much Marvel out of him. I mean, we've had very limited, and that would be characters we haven't seen him do that much of.
Hmm.
So anyway, well, Hassan and I have mentioned this a few times over the years, and we decided let's go ahead and talk about it. Um, he did do a Vertigo book that was creator owned. Um, it's a little odd in that it was never finished. It was supposed to be
Hmm.
12 issues. We only got seven. But it's called Otherworld, and Phil collaborated with Andy Lanning on it,
Hmm.
who did the inks. So Phil did the words and the pencils. Lanning did the inks. And I've actually got to call out the colorist, and that's Jeremy Cox, because the colors are so intense in this book,
Yes.
to say the
Uh-huh.
least. Um, but this was a creator-owned book at Vertigo by Phil. Again, it's only got seven issues. You cannot find this on the app. There was a trade of it collected that Hassan found on eBay. Um,
Yep.
And I think that's what I read it as it came out, and I think you did too.
I read it when it came out, but I got I don't. So, but I bought the trade again because I got as I try to not have to manage my collection, I did get rid of the single issues. So I ended up buying back this trade because I wanted half the story.
Yeah. Well, and it was published in 2005, so it is 20 years, 21 years old now.
I can't believe that.
Yeah. Well, we will say the art is amazing. Um, I will say when Phil writes, it is not the current style of comic writing. They are dense books. The
Yes, they
Titans
are.
Annual was as well. There is a lot of panels. Like if it's a 9 panel page, that's a quick page for some of these.
Yeah.
Um, you get a lot in each of these 7 issues. But the premise of the story is a bunch of people from Earth are transported to a magic and tech, an extreme magic land and an extreme technological land that appear to be at war.
Hmm.
Is that a quick, concise overview of it, Hassan?
Yeah.
Um, it turns out that the lead, and I put lead in quotes. She's sort of the focus character, but she's in and out of the book a lot. Her name is Siobhan. She is this gorgeous red hair woman in her 20s.
It's always a red hair woman causing trouble.
She's a college student, and most of the people in this book are college students, but not all of them. Um, I'm just gonna be upfront. She's cheating on her boyfriend. She's been seeing this guy Jason for a couple months, and she's about to break up with him because she is sleeping with his best friend.
Yes.
So you kind of feel like she is the heroine and the focus character, but she's got some faults. We all
Yes.
do.
Hmm.
There's a lot of nuance to it. Her boyfriend Jason, he's kind of a dick. Like they're
Yes.
kind of adversarial. He's very much to me has that alpha male personality of he's always right and he's like
He
at least that's
right.
how he comes.
Well, and it plays out in the story too, right? Because
Yeah, he gets much worse.
he gets much worse, and I think it's. I mean, so while I don't condone people cheating, again, people she is human, at least at this point. But but in all reality, sometimes when someone cheats, it's not because they just decided. It's probably the circumstances and the relationship that they have they're in, and they're just that's what it feels like when I read the portrayal of her and Jason.
Yeah, I think she was starting to pull back from him and she fell for his best friend who I don't want to say like he treats her bad, but he is just an ass. And they seem to thrive off of having a relationship where they're competitive with each other and things like that. It's very hard to describe, and we don't see that much of it. But like when they're in class, he specifically takes a viewpoint against her and seems to be like mansplaining shit to her a little bit.
No, he's an ass.
Very,
I think he's an ass. I thought he was an ass.
but let's not paint her all that pretty either. She is literally talking to his best friend on the phone while he's holding her, talking about getting banged like the night before. Like
Yeah.
she's not that innocent either. Um, we do have this is a huge cast. Some of her friends are involved, and then just some random people that happen to be at an inciting incident. One of their friends works at a bar that's having a concert. Some of the people that they know are in this concert. And in the background, Earth is called like the Middle Realm or something like that. I can't remember specifically. And we get interstitials between this high fantasy land and this high technologically advanced area that appear to be at war because there's this wall that each society is saying that the other has inflicted on that world that's slowly taking over and devouring it. So like the magic side's telling them like the technological people have created this wall that's infringing on them, and if you get close to it, you appear to die and things like that. And on the technological world, they're saying the exact same thing, except that the magic people have turned the wall on them. Um, there's these rulers of the place. There are a whole bunch of magi that kind of span a lot of Earth cultures. We've got Merlin at kind of at the head and the most powerful, but then you have appearances of, Native American, Asian, whole bunch of cultures influencing in their magic systems. And these magi want to bring Siobhan to their world as their champion. They're kind of convinced by this lady named Cesare that she needs to come back. 'Cause apparently, I guess she was born there, or she's at
Yes.
least from there,
Uh-huh.
and doesn't know that Siobhan has no idea of any of this. She's just been on Earth her entire life, and she's got no idea
Although
of it.
she's into some of this, like I don't know what to call it. She's into some of this mystic mess, right? She's into like on regular Earth. She's into some of the spiriter stuff.
Yeah. Well, Siobhan's playing this concert. She still hasn't broken up with Jason, and Cesare appears. Like Siobhan sort of has this attack while she's on stage, and the club seems to blow up, and a bunch of people are teleported to the tar pits in LA, and then they get attacked by the technological folks.
Yeah.
Um, Caesare's there to kind of activate Siobhan and turn her magic powers on, but they're also she's also brought a bunch of her friends with her, and they're giving them powers to protect Siobhan and kind of be her soldiers when she gets her powers. And none of these people have any say in this happening to them.
No, nope. They're just because they're just right there.
Ugh. And some of them don't even know her or know any of these people.
No.
And what happens though is during it, the technological side sends some folks to fight them, but they also kind of infect the spell that's going to activate all of them. And so Siobhan's like in this protective bubble, getting turned, getting activated, and learning stuff, while all of her friends quickly get powers, and some people that she doesn't know. They're getting attacked in the middle of it. So one guy grows wings, and while he's doing that, he gets shot. And some of their powers are corrupted by the tech people, and their powers are twisted more technologically, or they're kind of taken over. And Jason specifically, he now knows that Siobhan's been cheating on him. He kind of
Yeah,
found out,
he found out right before this whole thing happened.
and he is pissed, and he's
Yeah.
been acting like he doesn't know, and he's going to have it out with her after. But he has turned, while Siobhan's being turned pure mage, he's turned into complete cyber dude.
Hmm.
Um, and it really amps up his dislike of her and wants revenge. And that's pretty well what a lot of the story is about. Although, again, we end at parts issue 7 out of what's supposed to be 12. And it says end of book 1 at that point.
Hmm.
But Jason really uses this to go after and form a revenge. He turns during this the whole tech society to himself and kind of creates an army because he's a spurned lover, is what it boils down to.
Right, and then it goes back to the philosophy that they were talking about in the class too. There's a lot of links back to, his view on the word, and basically, it's actually very current. Feels a little current too. About
Yeah.
is it like what's more important, democracy or just the the rule of the land, and like maybe the only the smart should lead, or the power should lead.
Yeah,
Um,
what's best for society overall isn't necessarily democracy. You need a strong hand to rule it and make the decisions. And yeah,
Exactly. So I thought when I was reading this, I thought that was very powerful. That obviously this is 20 years old, but I thought that was powerful. Also, it's like a fantasy, sci-fi, and I would say a little horror. Right? There are a lot of bad things happen to some of the regular work folks that now are on this other world. So a lot of bad stuff happens.
yeah, like can't remember all the powers everybody gets, but one guy transforms into any monster. So
Hmm.
he's a shapeshifter. One of the ladies is also a shapeshifter, but we don't really get too much definition of her powers. She except that it's not comfortable for her to do it. One guy gets his powers end up kind of tech. He kind of
Hmm.
forms weapons and stuff. One lady's like Storm. She creates tornadoes and things like that. Um, there's a telepath, and his powers are not do not come on very well at first. Um, well, telepath and telekinetic. Um, what are some of the others? One girl's like Supergirl.
Yeah.
Like she hit the jackpot on all of them.
Well, I was
Um,
even thinking about that character Angel, where he was missing, and you find out that the tech people have pretty much taken, like, basically chop off his head, and he's just a floating head now. And that was like
yeah,
the
they
end of
got
one.
him right at the beginning, and his
Yeah.
fiance's with him. She's the one that can. She's one of the metamorphs, and she's looking for him this entire book. But yeah, to Hassan's point, as soon as he was one of the ones that the tech people got to right away, and we don't know where he is, except later we just see a head with a bunch of technology coming out of the neck, and they plug him into some giant
It,
machine
it,
body.
yeah, a couple things. When I read this, you know what it reminds me of? Nice House on the Lake.
It does me as well because of the cast, not too much of the plot.
Not the plot, but it's like the not the plot, but the fact that you get like a whole bunch of like regular people with that have different backgrounds, and then it's like how do they deal with this situation is very similar, right?
Yes. I
Um,
got the feel right away rereading this. It's like this is very much because a lot of them know each other from various points in life, but some don't. Same with Nice House, and it's a sprawling cast that at times is a little difficult to keep track
well,
of.
I would say the one thing I would say, we talk about Historia. I read, and it was printed. It was it was oversized. Now, absolutely, it's going to be even more oversized. I wish it was an oversized book because the amount of detail that Phil put in each panel,
Yeah.
it's like it felt constricted in this regular size book. That would be my only complaint, which is not a complaint on the story of the art. It's just that I wish I wish there was an extra size version of this because the art is fantastic. The amount of detail that he does in each panel is incredible, but because he's putting in so much detail in each panel, I just it doesn't come across sometimes because it's so condensed and dense.
Well, and to your point, he draws every background,
Yes.
all the hair. There's a whole issue where it's raining and they're fighting at the tar pits, and you can't. You've got the rain coming down with double page spreads with like 15 panels. Um, and another thing, Phil kind of changes art styles on some of these too, especially the second or third issue. We have at the top of the pages, it's telling the story of Siobhan, kind of where she comes from, and some about the creation of Otherworld, the mystical land that the mages found. All of that is done like gilded pages from an old book. You've got the spot illustrations, but the crazy designs of the words and things like that on it, but there's a different art style to it. Um, And we haven't even talked about the colors too much. I know I mentioned the colorist, but the colors on this book are popping, to say the least.
Yeah, they're excited and not bland at all, and they add to the book, right? Like everybody looks different, and the colors help make everyone looks different. And again, we I enjoyed the book. I'm just saying that if this was on my iPad, I would be like blowing
Zoomed
out each
in on.
panel. Um, so, but no, and then I don't know if you mentioned this, but there's also like the link to the Merlin because right. So there's a link
Yep.
to King Arthur, Merlin, because obviously because of the magic aspect of this. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately,
Oh, this group's eventually sucked into Otherworld, but they're split because of the spell that gets them there. The tech people take over, and they take four or five of them, and some of them go to the mystical realm. Um, Everything's not as much as well off as it seems. They're brought there by that Cesare lady, and she's just showing the folks the good side of the mystical realm. Um, and it looks gorgeous. Like
Mhm.
we get full page panels of each realm when the groups are transported there. And Sirna Og, the mystical realm, is amazing. You've
Yes,
got floating island cities in the sky. Like it looks like something out of every fantasy book you could ever imagine.
yep,
And the groups, Kavan is taken away, and she's gone to train with the various magi to learn their ways, and the group is left on their own,
hmm
and they don't trust anything that's going on, and they start diving into the city after their official tour. And one of the guys can transform into fantasy monsters, like we said, but they don't see any of these creatures in the area. And it turns out that the city has chased all of them out. They're living as outcasts, and the magi that run the city or live there want to destroy them and kill them all. And these are like sentient creatures, like centaurs and minotaurs and things like that. Um, the magicians just want to kill them. Whereas Siobhan thinks everything's just wonderful and this is like the best place ever, and she's going to go to war to defend it. And her friends are like, yeah, no, this is a whole bunch of bullshit and you've been lied to.
yeah,
Whereas on the flip side, the tech people, the group that got sent there, Jason is the head of that group, and he's more transformed than anybody. Um, he's in the background trying to take over that entire city, and his group doesn't trust him or what's going on, except for one or two of them. There's a gay guy in that group, and he just sees the equality in the city, and there's no hate, and he loves it. Like he feels accepted there, and he wants this to be right. And they can also heal folks there. There's a guy that's got diabetes that was
yeah,
an attack like right off and had gotten shot, and they heal him. They could cure his
hmm
diabetes. But one of the girl that creates the storm, she's got a giant scar on her face, and they could heal that. And
and
she's like,
she said
nah,
no, nope,
I don't trust y'all, is what the undertone is. Then you have the lady looking for her fiance, the dude that was the head. They act like they don't know where he is, and the tech people have turned him into a cyborg plugged into a weird machine, and then use them to attack her. So it's nothing is what it looks like in either one of these cities. They're both extreme paradises for completely different ways, but you look under it and they're not. Jason has giant commentary on the tech society of it just doing all this, and they're pretty well all the people are just addicted to tech and just living consumers. They're not doing anything, which I mean, it's
and what
pretty
year
well where
was
we are
this?
now.
I know what year is this. I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, wow.
we're getting close to that. But any new air, any new people that are added in are the underclass of society, and they have to be the ones to carry the burden for the upper class that it's getting whatever they want. Um, but Jason actually takes over, kills that land was made by Magi as well, except they went there and started advancing, whereas the Magi on the other side in the fantasy land want everything to stay the same. And that seems to be the central conceit or fight between the two of them. But there's something else going on. Like neither one of them created this wall, and we don't know who did. But each of these groups is going to go to war against each other to stop this wall from consuming their lands. But neither one of them created it, and we don't exactly know who did. But there's some stuff in the background kind of giving hints. Um, Again, it's a wonderful book. There's so much more going on than what we've said. I do wish we had gotten the finish of this. I know Phil's done some interviews since, like, Hassan mentioned the web version of that's kind of an update of this. It's kind of something it's been so long you can't go back to, and times have changed and styles have changed enough that we'll probably never get the end of this. But I enjoy what we got.
I agree, and I mean, I think we mentioned this already. You did a really good job talking about the story and the plot. And the thing is, it's like both words have their issues, right?
Yep.
Both words seem to be fine, and that's I think that's a theme that Phil was trying to tackle in the series about this. There's always a downside. You got to think about it. And there's this one that's leaving, trying to move into the future, but destroying everything, and one that's living the past, but that past is not as great as people think it is. Um, I I definitely will encourage people to actually, you find this at local comic shops, conventions, eBay. Like I said, I bought a trade on eBay. You also could find original issues as well. It has a nice Vertigo logo on it. By the way, Brian, I'm cutting because I thought that piece goes here, so I'm cutting. So it's a really nice Vertigo trade. If it has the original Vertigo logo. So yeah, I definitely would recommend people picking it up. Because it's one of his few creator-owned books that he's done, and I think if you're really a fan of Phil Jimenez, definitely is worth picking up.
Yeah, I want to try that update that you linked me to not long ago of the kind of his current version of this, even though it only did go three. I don't even want to say issues because it was
It's like
that
a
web
yeah,
site,
it's like a
yeah,
web comic,
webtoon
so it's not
on
full.
Zest World, which I had never even heard of
I,
until you
I
mentioned.
yeah, it's because I remember that was trying to become a thing. I don't think it was succeeded. We should do an episode of Substack, post Substack, one day.
Hey,
But
Three Mirrors, Three Worlds is finally coming.
I know that's finally because I'm just like I was a Substack subscriber to that, and I was like, okay, when I'm going to actually get the comic book, and
Yeah.
I really did love Brian K. Vaughan's Spectators, but when it was coming out page by page, it wasn't the same thing, and so anyway, we should definitely one day have a conversation about post Substack, what worked, what didn't work, but yeah. Anyway, going back to Phil Jimenez, yes, definitely. Otherworld is fantastic, and I also would recommend people pick up a lot of the stuff that he's done. I mean, I don't think he's done a bad book.
Yeah, I mean, I love his art. Um, love a lot of the stuff he's written that I've read. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, folks, thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and wrap this one up for the evening. Again, as Hassan said, there's plenty of Phil Jimenez stuff out there to read and enjoy, and we recommend you do so. Hassan, you want to mention our socials?
Yes, you could follow us on all social media. Comics Discourse 114. We're also on TikTok and YouTube. If you want to leave us a note, you can also send us an email at comicsdiscourse114@gmail.com. And please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.